Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avagnoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World, which, we literally 15 minutes ago we're going, maybe we should just not do this today. I mean, honestly, so this must be a really big topic
Right.
because I
Yeah.
texted her I texted you like a half hour ago. Good morning, Sandra. Good morning, Ashley. I texted Sarah like about a half hour ago and saying, I'm in a really shit mood. So I hope you're in a better mood so you can carry the conversation today. And she's like, yeah, no.
Well, and I've already lost power once with storms moving in. So, yeah.
Good morning, Sandy. Yeah. And so interesting how, yeah, and you guys have what, tornadoes and everything else. And
Tornadoes, hail. That's what's predicted
and I feel like
after
that's what's going.
yesterday's 4.5 inches of rain.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah. And so like, so obviously this is a big one. And we've been talking about this one for like a week, right? More than that, but
Yeah, I had a client that I was like, you have a secret. And that's when that whole, and then we
oh,
did
right,
the
that's right.
share.
Because we had that share last week. Was it Tuesday night? And that's when you were talking about that, and
Right.
everybody was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Oh, and my cat did the big hairball in the middle of that. Remember? That was so funny."
Nope.
Yeah, it's just been. Yeah, Sandy said that lull in this weather's gonna last all week.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so I hear over in your guys' area. Yeah, and we had it was funny because we weren't supposed to get rain at all. Nothing in the forecast. And then we got some yesterday, then we got some last night, and I'm like, it was like literally 1% chance of rain.
And you got it.
I'm like, let me take those odds to the lottery, please.
Well, and I forget where I was. I saw this is that, when they say 1% chance rain, that means that 1% of the viewing population will experience rain. It's
Uh,
not that everybody has a 1% chance rain. It's that
ah,
1%. Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Well, we were the 1%.
Right. You're the lucky 1%.
Yeah. Good morning, Ashmi. Good morning, Gloria. So, yeah, and I feel like I'm dragging myself through the mud right now.
Yeah. Yesterday was really tough. I ended up just taking a nap for probably an hour, which I haven't napped in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, well, and I've been this started for me what, like 3 weeks ago? Yeah, 3 weeks ago. And it got better, it's gotten worse, it's gotten better, it's gotten worse.
Yeah, rainy weekend.
Morning, Michael. Yeah, and so it's just so let's go back to the topic, right? So why don't you talk about how you got to that?
I was working with a client, and you know, we're talking about what's coming up. We're talking about what they're there, what he's coming to see me for, and it's like okay, but this is showing up somewhere else. It has to be showing up, and it's not just this particular item. It's never just what it appears to be. And I connected in, and I got this overwhelming. You're hiding this dark secret, dirty little secret. And he just looked at me like I had 10 heads. And I kept picking it apart and picking it apart with questions. And there was so much that was connected back into that self-loathing. I mean, I obviously never got to an event, but it was connected back into OCD behaviors with cleanliness, which automatically takes me to that why do you feel that you're dirty? If you have this obsessive need to go back after somebody's already cleaned,
Right.
and 3 showers a day, and this obsessive, I'm not good enough as I am, so I
Right.
need to make it different, make it better. And the secret was was as close as I could get at that point to um, to the bottom of that session, and we just looked at it from a the session was self acceptance and worthiness to be here, forgiveness for whatever we believe we've done or not done. It was so, I don't know. I think of like a snowball where you start with like a rock and then you roll some snow around it and then you put some mud or something on it and then ice, or, it just was that conglomeration and trying to get through all those layers down to the whatever the seed or the core or whatever was.
Yeah.
And it's all those things we talk about in Wonderland, all those facets. And
Right. All the
uh,
seven
yes,
facets.
this is a shameless plug, but I mean, it is what we're living. It's what we're all faced with.
Right. All
And
of us.
it's like, I don't trust you, I don't trust me, I can't forgive you, I can't forgive myself, I'm not worthy, no one's worthy. I mean, it's all
Right.
those seven facets.
Yeah.
And I think it's that falling into such deep forgetting.
I don't know. I used to think that, but it's like that's what we keep on putting the blame on. But then I'm going, but it's really not resolving. So I don't think that that's
True.
like we want to blame that, but I don't even think that that's it because we want to blame that. That's why, because it's like we want to put the arrow on it, which
Well, and that's too easy.
it's a distraction. And oh yeah, that makes sense, right? Oh, to the mind, it makes sense,
Right.
right? So let's see. Sandy says, I feel draggy too. I wasn't sure why everything's much slower and heavier. And Michael says, people today, don't take away my mask so I can hide my unconscious dark secrets. It's funny that you say that because my husband and I heard this and then comforted by the illusion.
Yeah, I
What is
love
interesting?
comforted by the illusion. That sums it
Yeah.
up.
Well, and the thing is, funny you say that about the mask thing. So, like they lifted a lot of stuff or whatever, which is funny because I realized that, we were supposed to be wearing masks outside, not just in stores for like a long time. And I was like, I haven't never done that. So whatever. But anyway, so my husband and I were going into Trader Joe's on Friday night, and there were two, like there was an employee at the door, and then there was, and she didn't have, like nobody had a mask on outside, right? Which was fabulous, right? And none of the employees did. Some of the people still did. But anyway, so there was somebody walking up who was apparently not on shift yet, but was like coming on to shift, right? As my husband and I were walking up, and she just, like, they were having this conversation, and the girl started laughing at the guy, and she goes, he's like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm just having a cigarette before I come in. Like it was like he was whatever. And she goes, no, it's just so weird to see your whole face again. Right. And then I heard them talking, and she said this, and I'm not kidding. She goes, I can't take it. She goes, it's too much for me to see people's full faces again.
Oh, wow.
And she's like maybe 25-ish, kind of thing. And my husband and I looked at each other and we thought, wow. And it's like, so my husband goes, it's so weird to think, because maybe she's 25, right? And we've only done the mask thing for a year. And it's like 1 year out of her entire life. And because of that 1 year now, it's like, oh, I can't handle looking at people's faces. And I was like, wow, I'm happy to see people's faces again. It's
Right.
great.
Right. And in thinking about it, I remember when I would get ready to go out and I would think, oh, I really should shower. I really need to, do something with my hair, or I need to do this or what. And it's like, I'm going to have a mask on. What difference does it make? And
Right.
now it's like, oh, nope, use the mask thing anymore.
And Sandy says the mask thing's been going on for over a year. We still haven't gotten to the bottom of it. Very true. Most likely that there are multiple facets to the layer of masks. Right. Well, look at the masks we want to put on. And it's funny that collectively, as we are shifting into a different place, right? We went through this whole year and a half almost of like wearing masks,
Right.
right? And I'm sure a lot of people are going to continue to wear them, whether or not they have to.
Right. I
Right.
don't
And
know. I think if they've gone and gotten the shot, I think that they'll not wear the mask.
I don't know. I have my doubts about that because of some stuff that I saw this weekend. But anyway, so
Right.
Um, but I think, but they're still hiding behind what? The vaccine, the mask, it doesn't matter.
Right. That's true.
Behind closed doors, behind whatever. And that's not a judgment. This is an observation. This is like, my husband and I were talking about this too, is, not even a year, like what, before a year and a half ago, there was how much criticism about how women are treated in the Middle East because they're forced to wear the hijabs over their face, right? Hijabs, that's what they're called,
Good job.
right? Yeah.
Good job. Yeah.
Over their face, and some of them have to cover their whole face except for their eyes. And then there was all this criticism about all that. Now it's like, no, but notice nobody's talking about that anymore.
Right. Well, and I know that a lot of the Asian population typically wore masks just because of the level of pollution that they had to put up with, and
Right.
were ridiculed and ridiculed and ridiculed. And now everybody's like, nope, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, you're right, Sandy, about like, what are we hiding behind? Like, what do we want to hide? And it's interesting because, so, I've hit this wall of just self-loathing over the last couple of weeks. And it's like, where did that come from? Because I've never had that, never had that.
Right. Right.
And so, I was looking at that, and I realized, okay, so here's an interesting thing, like, so about, I've been doing this professionally for 10 years. And, and we, and I've gained, like, I gained a bunch of excess weight over the last 10 years, which is just not me. And I've come to, I came to accept it and everything else. And then what, like, in the end of March, I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. Right. So I started doing that. And I'm like, okay. And I attribute it to that whole, like, session of pulling out whatever that thorn was, that, this big, huge thing that I had loved and didn't want to let go of, like my child. Right.
Right.
And then I finally was like, yeah, after I'm like, yeah, I'm done. So then I just start dropping weight just like that. Right. But here's the funny thing. Now I've, like, been dropping weight. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, when all this stuff started hitting, I'm like, what the heck? Like, what? And then there's like, failure, you're a failure at this, like, all of this voice that I have never had. And it's just been so loud into my face. And I'm like, wow, staying observant to the whole thing. Like, well, where's that come from? And when I started to tap into that whole thing, it had to do, it's like, well, the weight isn't to shield yourself from others. The weight has been to shield you from yourself.
Right. Sandy says, I have seen both teaching dance. Many people have used the mask as a reason to not come back. We never use mask in class. Now, most of them still aren't coming back, even though they are vaccinated. Definitely something deeper going on.
Oh
And
yeah.
Michael says, goes back to trusting others to make the best decision for them.
Well, and all of that is just symptoms, right? So it's all just symptoms. And and it's funny because I'm like, okay, with my thing is like, okay, so no, because I'm going to continue to let this go. I'm just ready to be done with it. And then there's this voice going, no, 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 keep it, keep it. And I'm like, no, 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 time to let it go. And
Right.
but then that voice, that self-loathing, that, judgy voice, it's just louder and louder. And I'm just like, wow. And I've been avoiding looking at it, but it's getting more and more rumbly, and it's coming up more. And so, like, and I feel like, and I know for sure it's coming up for a lot of people. I think well, not think, I know it's a collective thing, right?
Right.
It is a huge collective thing. So
Rosie.
what that's doing is pushing that up to the surface. And I feel like all this mask stuff, all this whatever that's going on, I mean, still, racial divide, political divide, mask or vaccine divide, it doesn't matter. It's
Right.
all the same. And it's like, all this is pushing up some dirty little secret that we just abhor the idea of looking at.
Yep.
But the key is that it's such a key. It's so important for us to finally look at it. It makes me think of time and time, like every time the voice starts getting louder and louder, it makes me think of Harry Potter with Dumbledore and Harry in that cave. And Dumbledore had said to Harry with the Horcrux, and he said,
No matter
no matter
what.
how much I beg you, don't let me stop drinking that poison. Right.
Right. Right.
because it's the only way we're going to get, don't, no matter how much I beg. And it's so funny because it's almost like I hear the voice getting louder. And it's like, no matter how shitty it gets and now how upset I get, I am just going to proceed.
Right,
You
right,
know?
right. Well, and
And
maybe the exercise is just proceeding, not looking at the details,
yeah.
not knowing, not understanding, but just continuing to move forward.
Yeah. And that's, it was funny because like what I started doing was because like that whole failure thing. Oh my God. I could, like when you want to twist it, like you can twist everything positive, but you can twist everything negative too when you want to, right?
Absolutely.
And it's funny because that's what it starts to try to, it's been starting to try to do. And so the other day I was like, you know what? I am going to neutralize this. I am going to shift that, right? Because it's very uncomfortable for me because I'm not usually in that space. So I'm like, okay, here's the thing. So we were walking. So my husband and I were on our walk, and I'm like, okay, I am successfully moving forward right now. I am successfully, completing my walk, and it's just like, it's just got to be baby steps.
Right. Every step has to, I hate to use has to, every step reflects success, reflects authenticity, reflects who
Yeah.
you are, what you feel authentically,
Yeah.
not masked or anything else.
Well, and that's, and maybe part of it is that the part of us, so if we look at the part of us collectively, right, as a consciousness, so say like the collective is just one consciousness, like we consider our minds, right? So if we
Right.
look at, which it is, so we look at the collective as a consciousness, and there's the parts of us, parts of the mind, the parts of the consciousness that are going, yeah, but it's time for us to, we can look at this, we can unmask it, we can unshield it, we can put it out and, in the light of day and love it and thank it and have gratitude for it and move on, right? And then there's the other part that is just getting to be very bipolar again, like on the other side going, no, 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 we've got to keep it because not only do we abhor it, but it continues to keep. So what did you say the other day? Something about a seed in our texts.
Oh, the seed of worthiness, the seed of, I mean, there's the seed of everything.
But it's like the seed of perpetuation of this duality, right?
Right. Right.
Maybe, and it's like,
And we each would carry a piece of that or we wouldn't
right,
be here.
right. And it's like, well, no, 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 because if you don't carry the seed anymore, then it's going to just not perpetuate.
And you won't be included. And there's value in being here, and you have an innate value just by being here. So if you no longer accept that seed, the threat is you won't be here anymore. But I think that's I think that's just a threat. I don't think that that's actually
Well,
the
and
truth.
And I think the real disease, I think that's really the disease. The disease is the opposite of what we think it is, which is wait, because look at what happened. Look at when all this hit. Look at when all the COVID stuff and all of this wacky mask stuff hit, was when after like we had made some massive shifts forward, right? And so
Right.
many were waking up, awakening and all that kind of stuff. And then it was like, oh, nope, we got to shut this down, right?
Right.
We've got to shake the crap out of ourselves so that we get scared and then run by fear again and then da 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 da. So it's like, and it's funny, as my husband and I were talking about that, and I said, yeah, it's interesting, and it's not a conspiracy, like people call it a conspiracy theory, right? To think, because we still think of somebody else trying to control us, and it's like, but that's us. That's the part of our consciousness that's still trying to perpetuate this,
Right.
right? As it's
Well,
been,
and if you take the word conspiracy off that, it's just a theory,
right, right.
which, the world is full of theories.
And it's all capable. I mean, all creations are true in some way, shape, or form, right? So then I'm like, okay. And I'm like, and we had to create at some level. We had this conversation yesterday on our 4.5 mile walk. It was like, so it's like maybe, like we talked about for a while, what alien disclosure, right?
Right.
Which of course, when we connected in consciousness, we know they're always there because they're us anyway, right? And all this kind of stuff. So, um, and so I'm like, yeah, but then it was like somebody said, yeah, and so Scott says, yeah, but then somebody probably said, oh yeah, no, too many people would be like, oh cool, let me meet them at this
Right.
point in time. So
Right.
it's like, oh no, we have to create another enemy that's going to be, something that's going to bring everybody together in fear versus,
Right. So
separate
we
people
still
again.
have to have a them to
Right.
create the us.
Right. But we can't, historically, we can't do it one person people against the other, because then that creates more doubt, more, room for whatever. But if it's an unseen enemy, right, that we can claim as all these things and all kind of stuff. And so I was like, yeah, that was pretty
Right.
perfect, right? So it's like, oh, we're starting to transcend over that fear, we're starting to transcend over separation. Oh well, now we're going to do this again. No, 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 we have to put something in place, and pretty drastic, because where we were. So Sandy says, feels like something like this going on. You have to keep driving it forward, perpetuating separation, or else, hidden judgment, hiding in the crevices, deeply embedded, so we can't find it.
Yeah.
That's the seed, right?
Right.
And so the more of us that say, okay, I'm ready to open, like just put this out, spit it up on the table, cough up the hairball, however you want to look at it, and be like, yep, no more. The more the consciousness that's trying to still, it's like we're fighting ourselves, right? So it's one big consciousness at that collective level. And it's almost like we had gotten all the message. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And maybe
Right.
this is the worst part.
Well, and when you think about a seed, when you bury a seed, so it's dark, it's in the darkness, which makes sense that we don't want this to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't be afraid of transparency, Sandy says. Yeah. So it's a matter of, yeah, because I'm like looking at this stuff and the voices in my head, and I'm just like, where is this coming from? Because it's never been there, or it hasn't been there for a really long time, or it's
Right.
been so, whatever. And I mean, it has gotten me to the point in moments where I just want to curl up in a fetal position and be like, screw everything else. I just am done.
Right.
Just take
Right.
me away. Take me away, Calgon. I'm done.
Right. Right. Well, and I hear, I'll accidentally scroll too far one way on my phone and end up in my news feed, and it's talking about everything going on in the Middle East, and I have that flash of, just end it all. Just nuke everything. Just let's just be done. I'm so tired of this. I'm so fatigued by it all.
Oh, like what we had in what was that last June, right? In Wilmington at the beach when we were doing our deep dive weekend. And was it all of us at one point? All of a sudden we looked at each other and we're like, what if we just threw a freaking lighter or a match on the gasoline? Let's just blow the whole shit up, man.
Burn it all up. Burn it down.
And then we're like, no, because that's how we've done it before. And then it's never, the seed somehow allows itself to germinate all over again. And maybe that's what it is for us to do.
Well, and if you think about it, isn't it the seeds of the redwoods that need the fire, the heat to germinate?
Yeah.
Yep. So just by igniting everything doesn't rid you of it necessarily.
Yeah.
Or like the phoenix that's born anew.
Right. Right. And we just keep on perpetuating the same experience over
Right.
and over in different packages. Right. So, and that's what we think, oh, well, like, yeah, that'll be a fresh start. No, because then
No.
we base it and the same seed, it's still a seed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the key is to destroy the seed, because it's time to move into some other set of experiences, and we're done with this part of the project and whatever. And maybe this is the tough part that we've set ourselves up for, that we knew was going to be tough. And that's what we've been testing ourselves with, or, pushing ourselves to be the calm in the storm, the center in the chaos,
Right.
the
Right.
Dumbledore drinking the poison kind of thing.
Yep.
Going, this is like by every nerve in your being, to not want to do that, for it to not be completed that way. But if that's the only way through. Remember one time a while ago, you and I had talked about that, about going through the darkness. And sometimes you've just got to go so deep into the darkness, you come out the other side.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's no point in getting almost to the middle and turning back around and going out because it's the same distance to
Yeah.
continue on through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all I have to say about that. It's more I've said, I think, in a bunch of days.
Right.
So,
Well, it's definitely a collective thing, and I think it points out the value of assessing the your now every moment. Where am I? Does this support what I want to create? Is this how I want to move forward in every moment? Not just, well, in this meditation or in this dream or whatever. It's every moment, and that is pulling all your awareness into right now.
yeah. It's also allowing things to die that really are still very um, separation driven.
Right.
Um, Cindy says we have to be careful not to destroy the seed in anger. The word destroy can imply a hidden anger and judgment. Because why do you need to destroy it? Well, but destroy is only how you judge it, right?
True.
Allowing it to die without germinating it is
Right.
destroying it. In a
Right.
way. And I think actually you're right in terms of Sandy, in terms of that's the fire thing, right? So you don't want to feed it fire because that will germinate it to reseed, right? So it's just allowing it to die, which then the rest of our consciousness is like, it's for us to just keep on expanding the consciousness, the parts of us that are collectively that are ready to let it go, because
Well,
letting it go is just letting it not germinate, right? Which means that
and
we
if
don't
you
throw
if you
the
think about it, some things, what you think about, you bring about. So if you just stop giving it your energy, that's destroying it, which is the opposite of the flame. That type of destroy.
Yeah. And I mean, and as I keep on readjusting myself, oh, see, I yawn right into that. Re resetting myself, right? To be present. And the thing is not to power through, right? It's to be present with
Right.
it without judging it, right? So
In every moment.
it has
Exactly.
been such a task for me to stay present with that voice of failure and anger and frustration and
Futility.
futility. Yeah,
Futility.
that's the
Yeah.
word, futility.
Yeah.
And to be present with it, to love it and observe it without falling prey to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like walking on a very fine edged sword.
Or that razor. Yeah.
Yeah. And and so but the feeling that I've been getting, as much as it has sort of brought up a bunch of crap that I didn't even know was there, has been that feeling of, yeah, but see, every step I take forward, every step that I like neutralize that voice with, it gets louder, which means that
Yeah.
I'm hitting on something that's really important, or else
Right.
it would be trying so desperately to pull me away from it.
Right. Right.
And it's trying. It's very trying. It's been trying for me. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a very intense few weeks here.
yeah. And now it's funny that you guys having like tornadoes and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, look at that. And
Right.
we've been having crazy weather, excuse me, for a while, right? All over
Right.
the place. Winter
Well, and
and
that collective decision that we need to clear something out, and this is how we're going to do it,
yeah.
and then allow it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you can stop the weather.
Right. Right. Well, they try with the
I
weather
know.
seeding. which I think makes it worse. But
I know. Well, it's like I saw the again, scroll too far on my phone where they're releasing like 650 million genetically modified mosquitoes in
Oh,
Florida.
I heard about
What
that.
could go wrong?
Right. Right. Here's a, you know what? Here's a, we started the experiment with COVID, right? Now we're continuing experimentation with the vaccines. Well, let's just throw out some GMO mosquitoes too and see how.
Right, right. As if things weren't challenging enough. Well, and I thought it was interesting yesterday when I was checking the radar for how much more rain we were going to get. I noticed that there had been a tornado in Wuhan, China, and I was like, "Oh, I guess they needed to finish cleaning that out."
Uh, how convenient.
Right, 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 right. I wonder what else was released when that tornado went through.
Oh, yeah, I know. And that's, I think maybe that's part of our task right now is to stay still, to be still and present and be yet become more aware, which many of us have gotten practiced at not looking at the news that much, right? But to just be
Right,
more aware of what's going on in the bigger picture, because I think that's going to give us more clues.
right.
But it's a challenge to know where to look because it's
Yeah.
not the regular news outlets, that's for sure.
No, that's for sure.
But yeah, no, I've been hearing about the GMO thing from my mother for months. She's been raving about, ranting about that. So,
Not quite sure whoever thought that was a good idea, but
yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, but there's and so it feels like it's this desperate attempt to somehow germinate the next
right.
iteration, right?
Yeah. And maybe that's what the secret is that we don't want to do that again.
Well, or maybe it is
And
that.
that's what we're representing as being a failure, not perpetuating this.
Well, and it's like which side though, right? Because we have just as equal sides of those who do want to perpetuate it.
Absolutely.
And that to many is a dirty little secret to admit. I want the pain. I want the suffering. I want this separation. I love that experience, right?
I love the sensations that I've created. So why would I ever want to let go of any of them?
Yeah. Let's just do it again and again and again because we can.
Ugh.
Right. So I think that's a lot of people's dirty little secret, right? And why, when you get to a certain point, like I was thinking about that when you get to a certain point, like when you had told me us in the share about that client, and then I was looking at other clients where I had actually helped them look into some deep dark secret within themselves that had motivated them to have a lot of issues in their lives and stuff like that. That it was like a huge thing to get there, but then they sort of like look like a deer in the headlights, even when you're talking about it in a non-judge, in a very accepting, loving kind of way, because they can't accept that within themselves. And then that's when, like, all of a sudden, it's like I could be seeing these people for like months, and all of a sudden, that's it. They just stop coming.
Right, right.
It's like, but that's a huge breakthrough, and it's fine because then it's like, all right, well, then you saw it. Now it's up to you to do whatever you choose with that,
Right,
right?
right,
But
right.
but we all have those things. We all have those. And here's the thing. Maybe part of it is we want to keep it in the dark because that's what we want. That's our part of the seed, right? Those darkest parts of us, because that's what germinates.
Right.
And if we bring it up to the light and forgive it, accept it, apologize, have gratitude and all that kind of stuff, well, then there's nothing left in the dark.
Yeah. Well, and there's nothing to have power over us. It's
Right.
almost like an equalizer,
And there's no,
and that takes away our propulsion.
yes, because then there's no resistance, there's no friction, there's
There's
no,
nothing to fight against.
yep,
Yeah.
yep,
There are no more superheroes
yep. Well,
because
because
we're
there's,
all superheroes.
right. And there's no more demons.
Right. So there's no point in going to the movies or reading a book.
Well, we've known that for the past year
Right,
anyway.
right.
And that's interesting too. It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting what Sandy said. It's true that we still haven't gotten to under that whole. It's funny that how many have really gotten comfortable hiding behind a mask, like very physical mask that we've created because we had it. But here's the thing, we put it here to see it so we could physically see it and not hide from it anymore, right? So before it was your mask was the face you put on in public,
Right.
the face you put on to other people. Well, now it's literally something that just covers your face.
Well, because we couldn't hide the other anymore.
Right, right.
Right.
So no matter how loud the voice gets, no matter how much you beg to stop drinking the poison, just don't, just keep going. It's for us to
Right.
just keep going. And it's for us to also remember it's just an illusion anyway.
True. An illusion that we love, we adore.
Oh, because we created it, right?
Yep. It's ours.
So yeah, it was interesting. I had a dream last night that actually sort of points to that. It was funny because I was like in a new job and I was tasked with doing something or intuiting something, and I was like, nope, I can't. I've shut it all down, blah blah blah. And I was like, nope. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna fail, right? Because there's that fail voice, right? I'm gonna fail at
Right.
this. Then a friend of mine comes in who I'd hired in the dream to do something for me, and she like shuts the door, the conference room door, and locks it. And she looks at me and she goes, it's just an illusion and you know it. And she's like, and you know how to do this. And I'm like, no, but I can't because of this. And she goes, yeah, you can. She goes, you're lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. and, and I figured it out before the end of the dream, but that didn't make me, that felt maybe actually felt worse, made me feel worse at the beginning when I woke up.
Oh,
So, which is that dirty little secret all over again, and it's the seed of what you're right, it's the seed of what drives us. And if we don't have that, then it's our propulsion is gone, and then we feel like, well, then what's our use of being here? And
right. Then that's our usefulness
yep,
gone.
yep.
Yeah.
And there's the failure, right?
Right. Right.
The perception anyway. So Sandy says, well, I love those movies, the superhero movies. Yeah. Sandy says, remember the discussion we had last summer and fall about the masks allowing us to see the soul of the person? Yes. We were judging the masks as taking away the freedoms, and Angela noticed another perspective that the masks also help us see their soul. The soul's in the eyes, so let's stop judging who wants to wear the mask. Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's the thing is, it's not a judgment, but the thing is, it's for us to get past assuming that calling notice to the masks is a judgment versus just an observation, to say, what is it looking at a collective, what is there for us to
Right.
look at from that at a collective level, because we are still hiding.
Right. Right.
And it was so interesting that just hearing that girl say that, oh, I just can't handle seeing people's full faces. Like, it was so bizarre to me, right? So like, and when we walked in, I looked at my husband and I said, did you hear? He's like, yeah, I heard that. It's
Well,
like,
and that's different than saying I can't, bear my full face. It's like I can't bear seeing, which I think is even more startling.
yeah, yeah. And it has, and maybe it, there's a lot to be said about all of that. Um, Maybe it's the opposite of what we think.
Well, it always is.
Yeah. Another life, man. Oh, yeah, Sandy says was just a reference point of what we judged back in. Yeah, and it's just such an observation though how much we've changed in such a short period of time, right? In terms of like expectations and interactions, and I'm like, well, it's interesting how many I've heard say things like, now that things are being lifted, oh no, I'm still going to stay home for a while, I'm still going to do this for a while, and it's still like this. Now it's this fear that's been germinated, right, to be
Right, right,
afraid of, to be propelled in a different direction, and so
right,
the thing is, it feels like almost a merry-go-round. It's like, so how do we get off this merry-go-round?
right. Well, and it feels like it's almost not going to be enough to just, it's not just COVID. It's not just the COVID
Oh no,
merry-go-round.
not at all.
It's the 2021 merry-go-round.
Well, it's like, it's not just the COVID, it's not just like racial divide, and
Politics.
and it's like, well, it's so interesting on how we call notice to it constantly, right? So here's the funny thing, and my husband and I were talking about this the other day too. It's like, no matter how much we call note, so like you can call notice to a difference between people, right?
Right.
Whether it's gender or race,
Religion.
religion, how color their hair, color their eyes, whether LGBT, sexual orientation, sexual identity, or gender identity. Like, you can come up with so many different ways to see differences, right? That's what we
Right.
created. That's the beauty of this whole thing. That's what we created, this amazing, incredible rainbow, right? And the thing is, though, that even so, if we're to come back together in unity and wholeness, right, is to see the connection now instead of the differences. And yet, so
Right.
if we're continuously calling attention to the differences, it doesn't matter whether you're doing it in a negative or a positive manner, you're still calling attention to the differences.
Right. You're perpetuating the divide.
Right.
Right.
So it's not better because you're saying, oh well, like, let's have extra, extra this and extra that, or let's give these people the extra this and whatever, because that's still perpetuating the differences. And because we tell ourselves, oh well, this is a good way of doing it versus this is a bad way of doing it, it's still doing it. It's still
Right.
calling attention to
Right.
the differences, instead of saying we are one whole. We are one whole with all these beautiful facets of individuality. And no matter who you look at, you can find a difference, a uniquity, if you want to call it, right? That will make them an individual, right? If not,
Right.
not just one, but 500 things, if you want to choose that way. And so it's really time for us to stop doing that too. But it's almost like we're trying to find our way. And it's like this desperate attempt now at, how do we perpetuate the separation and germinate that seed again? So.
Right.
So that's the whole thing. So what's our task for today?
I don't know if it's got to do with that staying present in every moment, or
How's this? That we're worthy to do this, that we can trust ourselves to do this, that we are to depend on guidance to do this. Let's go through all seven, shall we? That
right,
we are,
right. I made one of those statements at one point.
yeah,
I,
that we can, apologize and forgive ourselves and have gratitude and complete all that cycle, right? To complete this, that we are the ones creating it. So it's never outside of our, domain. So that's
right,
five. It's six is looking in the shadow. I'm like, getting through all seven. looking straight into the shadow and bringing that seed to light, and then sitting
All
in
for self love and nourishment.
Yep. Bam. We hit all 7.
Right.
So, yeah. How about all of that? And allowing that to be, allowing ourselves to be that. Oh, that feels good for the first time in days.
Yeah,
So,
let's do that.
yeah. Okay. So, everybody close your eyes, take a deep breath, step out of separation into our wholeness and oneness, and hold ourselves at the vibration where that is our truth. And that's from where we create and exist and manifest. It's funny. My cat came in and sat right with my feet and just started licking really loudly. And I was like, irritating, is it? Finally calmed down. That actually felt that felt nice. I think I'm going to go sit in that when we get off.
Right. It felt very comfortably numb.
Yes, which has been an improvement for me for the past
Yeah,
several weeks.
in fact, almost to the point where it was like, wait a minute, am I really doing this?
Yeah.
Because it was like there was no sensation.
Yeah. It was actually really nice. Well, trudge on,
Right.
everyone. Sandy says, wow, this was huge. So much resistance everywhere. I got some clarity, but too big to put into words. Hang on. I have more. So she's typing. Yeah, it was just nice. Peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a resistance. There is resistance all over the place, but it was like since we encompassed all the 7 areas, it was just like, oh, ding, ding, ding. You know, it was just sort of like poking away at that. Like,
Ugh.
so, all right, here's Sandy's other part. I saw a diamond and the facets, but saw it differently. I got some clarity and I need to sit on it to get the words. My phone rang at a pivotal point. I'll share later. Okay. Yeah, because it's like, oh, distract, please distract, you know.
Right. Right.
That was what I felt like the cat was, you know, like because he literally came at my feet and started doing the loud licking thing, and it was just like, oh, well, one step at a time.
That's right.
That's all it matters, I guess.
Yep. Stay in that present moment.
And it's truly getting to this point of committing to that beyond what everything looks like. You know.
Right.
And that's the death of the ego and the mind going, no, but it's supposed to be this, but, right? Which is
Right.
where all the failure words come from. No, you're failing at this and you're failing at that. And yeah. So I'm going to just get off and go meditate and sit
Right.
for a while. And maybe, I don't think I have much on my plate today, so I might just spend a bunch of time in that today because I really feel like I need it.
Awesome.
Time to nourish, self-nourish.
That's right. Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. This is Angela Coulter, and
Sarah Sieg Avignoni.
have a great week. Bye.